Yeah. I always pictured I would be one of the greatest. Become every sense of the word and stun on those who hate it. Something that I was given my parents that couldn't take it. Resilience to every stone that was cast, I demonstrated. Every stone I put in bracelets. Beauty underrated. Was told to believe if you're not a scholar, get a dish. A boy like you in the league, only way that people paying. I started believing that I was one that wouldn't make it. That gave me more reason to question pictures people painted. I stopped giving a fuck. I told them meet me on the back end, I'ma take it for. I try to do just how you did the life and pleasing me. I die a hundred with myself if I don't sleep on me. I learn I'm not telling the.
Yes, sir. It's the Rob and Rob for Life podcast, the media for the culture, Black media, Black excellence, all Black everything. We have a special guest in the building today that we're very happy to have. But before, let me check in with my good brother Rod. How you feeling today?
Yeah. What it do, my brother? Bro, you right. We got a special guest. I just want to thank him, using the platform just to shed light on what we could do as Black people.
Absolutely.
It's not just a social platform, a brand, it's a lifestyle.
That's a fact. Just the other day, it was crazy. They were asking LeBron a question, and they're like, being Black isn't like a movement. It's a lifestyle. And this is exactly what the Black Man Can Institute provides us with. Brandon Frame, how you feeling, brother?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm just honored to be here with you guys and just to chop it up and talk about being Black men, how we're doing great things, how we can still continue to be better, and just get into the topics of the day.
That's a fact. And just so everybody knows, he's the Chief Visionary Officer, Morehouse graduate, and a mentor to so many young Black men. So let's start here. Heard you got a little game, brother. I seen you on the shooting machine. See you shooting like 52%. I mean, it was a little minute ago, but
Get him a
talk to us
contract.
about talk to us about the basketball skills.
I mean, yeah, basketball was like that love. I was definitely the kid. I think it's a great parallel because like growing up, I was definitely the kid when people came in and then they came to your classroom and said, what you want to be? He said, I'm going to the league, So I was definitely that young man, which is that all plays into a role in why the Black man can't even exist. But yeah, I grew up playing ball, played varsity in high school and did that big time AAU, traveled around the country, used to coach AAU basketball as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
Which AAU teams are you involved with?
I was with Connecticut Basketball Club, so it doesn't exist anymore. I think it's called like NE6 or something like that. But like, we had like my brother who played in the ACC. Then we had like Andre Drummond and Chris Dunn, two groups that came out of that era of like when I was coaching with Connecticut Basketball Club and stuff.
Tough.
So I got to see and live that AAU life and travel on planes and tournaments and stuff like that. Like when I'm watching the NBA now, that's coming. It just came back. It's like it looked like a little AAU thing going on.
It does. It really does.
I feel like all the guys is like, oh, this is like what was in high school. Like we in one place, we live in one place. We just go to different games or different courts and stuff.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Seeing your brother play at Pitt, how was that really just a great feeling for you? Because everybody wants to make it to the Division I level. So how was that for you being alongside your brother? He's younger or older?
He's younger.
Okay. So how was that being able to see him in that spotlight?
It was cool. I mean, that's something that, he wanted. And, he was one of those kids that was like really athletically gifted. So you knew he would play. He was like, sometimes in this world, you can look at some kids and as early as middle school, you're like, they're a scholarship. They're just a scholarship athlete. We won't say a pro, because sometimes pro is a lot
far.
That's a height. You know what I'm saying? Like you see a dude 6'9", you're like, oh, he probably could be, with no.
He could go to college.
They could go catch up, right? You know what I'm saying? But like, and some kids are just blessed with that athletic ability. That guys they jump high, they run faster, and just cause, So my brother was kind of like that, and then he worked hard, refined his game. He had a really interesting journey too. So you don't have the typical like go to high school, then go right to college. Like he had to do high school, then he did the prep school, then he did junior college, and then
he went the whole way.
He had the whole
journey.
Experience,
right.
But he persevered, he pushed through. He's He played in Belgium and the G League last year. I think he's got an offer for Greece this year, and some other ones to come in. So, I told him, he's 24. I'm like, man, if you can play basketball till you're like 30,
30, yeah, it's not bad.
Well, hey.
You get to 30, and you get contract year after year, whether it's here or overseas, and then in 30 you really got to get like a real job if that's what we want to call it.
You got to get busy.
That's not bad. You spent 30 years. You spent from roughly like 8 or 9 to 30 playing basketball, and got to the point to get paid to play basketball. Like that's cool, So.
Definitely agree with you with that. Especially that's just like always the childhood dream for most of us.
Always.
Especially that play ball, like you've even spoke about. But really touch on the Morehouse experience for us. Is Morehouse what it's jacked up to be?
HBCU.
Yeah, the HBCU. All three of us actually went to HBCU. I went to Claflin. Rod went to Hampton. So really explain to us how you. Hey, this guy go. Tell us how the Morehouse experience was.
I mean, Morehouse, it don't really get any better than that. Like, I think there's something special about historically Black colleges, as we all know. And then there's something special about a single gender institution, right? So, like, it is the microcosm of Black male excellence, right? Because it's the only place that is designed specifically for Black men, right? Like, all the other schools are co-ed. It's just, they co-ed. So you have to make sure you are
focus.
You got men and women there, so you got to have those pieces where at Morehouse is like, how are we going to make the next Martin Luther King or Dr. David Satcher, Edwin Moses, Spike Lee, and the list goes on, right? And so I think that's just what we say at Morehouse, and maybe it's something similar they say at other schools too, but like, you don't just go to Morehouse, but you let Morehouse go through you. And so, like, for me, like, that's being a Renaissance man with a social conscience and a global perspective. That's being well-dressed, well-balanced, well-read, well-traveled, all these different things are things to embrace as like part of your identity, and your space in the world, right? And it's a space where you're like, as a Black man, you can get the confidence to move throughout the world and know that you belong at the table, to overcome imposter syndrome, because you're supposed to be here, you're supposed to lead, and you're walking in the footsteps of other Black men who have led. And I think there's a beauty to that, for Black male development, because we know that in the K through 12 education system, you don't get that, right? You don't get to see that, you don't get that feeling, right? And so now you get to go to this place, Red Clay School of Red Clay Hills of Georgia, and you're able to say like, okay, like, I'm here and I can go off and now, conquer the world, but that's what I'm supposed to do. So.
Yeah, and it's different. Just like you're learning from somebody that looks like you, you kind of just gravitate towards that and just gain the knowledge and absorb it more in a way. We briefly just want to talk on fatherhood real quick, because with me and my relationship with my dad, he was in my life, left when I was younger, and I reconnected with him later. You met your dad for the first time at the age of 18. How was that like?
It was, for me, it was a great experience. I think growing up, I was able to, through journaling, and then just my own development, I was able to process my emotions through written reflection. So when I met my dad, I was, in a really good place, and I was just happy to have an opportunity to build a relationship with him. I wasn't, I didn't have any animosity. I didn't wonder, why or have any anger or anything like that. I was just happy that, I get an opportunity to have my dad in my life, and like and then even just think about it, because I kind of like a little bit of a forward thinker, it's like, I'm actually gonna have him in my life for more than I didn't have him in my life. Should I live a long time, right? So like the first 18 years, he wasn't necessarily there, but guess what? Like, once I get over 36, I'm 33 now, right? Or 32 right now, but once I cross 36, right? And when I get 37, he's been in my life longer than he wasn't in my life, right? And so like, and now, we have I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. We have season tickets to the Dallas Cowboys. I was in his wedding. Sometimes he lives in Charlotte. I just pull up in Charlotte and hang out for the weekend. You know what I mean? So I think, just that's what I'm grateful for. And yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit of my story, you know. And then I think I appreciate my mom for never talking ill of him growing up, so that I can even have opportunity to have this relationship. And then I think it's also like, you know, you never want to put a single narrative on any one person, right? And so like if you were to meet if you didn't know me and you didn't know my sister, and then you asked us both to talk about our dad,
Two different completely stories.
you didn't know that we were brother and sister, you would think we were talking about a different person, right? And so like my sister is like whatever you want to define a daddy's girl as, and especially in terms of a positive way, that's her, right? And so, you know, and so like I also know that too. So, you know, and so I guess even as I learned that, I was like, I'm looking forward to having that type of relationship as well. So
yeah, I think you really hit on some real key points right there. I feel like your thought process is real mature too as well.
Positive
to be able
too.
to, you two key things you said. You said your mother never spoke ill about your father, which is real important. And two, like being able to have an open mind. Like you said, we can't have just a single view on somebody. So really touch on that and how you were just really able to like just have that open heart, because a lot of people feel neglected. Like, why weren't you there? I mean, those probably could have still been questions, but how were you able to really just like push forth and just have that relationship with him like that?
I think I always like wanted it, right? And then the opportunity kind of presented itself. Even how it came to be, like how I even got a chance to basically reconnect with him was because my senior year in high school, my basketball coach was like, hey, you know, can you, you know, kind of mentor, you know, some of the freshman players, just, you know, stay on top of him, make sure he stay on top of his schoolwork and stuff like that, you know? And so his name was Kevin Moses. And so I said, yeah, you know, no problem. So I talked to Kevin, and I even spent a few times, like I have shown up to his house and stuff like that, right? And then one day I'm in the gym, you know, we having like a little shoot around or whatnot, and I come in the gym with my mom, and Kevin's in the gym with his dad. And so my mom says, Kevin, and then she's like, Angela. And so they were in school. My mom had me at 20 when we were in school. He is really good friends with my dad. So he didn't know until that moment. He didn't know I was the same little baby that was in the dorms when my mom had me.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
So he was like, so this is Glenn's son? And he's like, and I mean, I talked to him like last week, you know? And so I might have been at the house when he was talking to him, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And so he was like, man, you know what? I'm a make a, and like, he's a dad, he's really involved in his son's life and stuff like that. So he's like, man, you know, I'm gonna make some phone calls, man. And then he got me the phone number, and, you know, and then we built a relationship from there, you know? So that even the opportunity came through, you know, just being a good person and looking out for another young man, like just that's kind of the catalyst. So like that anchors me, you know, and knowing like is what it is. And like also I think it just ties back to like when I think about this whole thing, you know, people have free will, and God gives us that to live our lives and make our own decisions, right? And we can look back and say like, yeah, we did this, I did that, shouldn't have did this and whatnot. But at the same time, also though, when we try not to lean on our own understanding, we realize like, you know, everybody's journey is their journey.
It's different,
so, like, you know, you could, depending on how you want to use scripture, right? You could be like, well, me not having my dad was supposed to be my journey. Like that's an argument that you can make, like, because like where I'm at and how that all impacted me is for me to do the things that I'm doing now, or plays a role or is a factor in what happens. If I have him, maybe there's things that don't happen. The men that have poured into my life, maybe they don't end up pouring into my life, or I don't end up building relationships with them if he is there, because I have things that I may be looking for. I get it at home as opposed to seeking out people to find it, right? So I think those are what ifs, right? You know what I'm saying? Because like it's just the reality, right? And so I think that part of it is like, that's just that all of this is part of my journey. It gets to be my story. It gets to be my testimony. and then hopefully through that it gets to be able to empower somebody else, or somebody's like, it's possible, or whatever it may be.
Real quick, you mentioned journaling. What age did you start journaling and just using that to express your emotions?
Around middle school, my grandfather, who played a major role in my life, and up until about 7th grade when he passed away, he passed away. And so in that time, it was kind of like in between this time of like him passing away. I started before that, but like really getting to like journaling for myself was when he passed away, up until like some point more so in high school. Like I kind of stopped a little bit more in high school as I got a little older. I mean, that's just more of a time thing. But like in that period was when I didn't have my grandfather, and I didn't really have maybe as many role models in my life. And so like my place to talk about that and to process my emotions was journaling. And that was kind of like that, what's that, like 11, 12 to like 15, 16 time frame, right? Like in that period is when I journaled a lot, and but it helped anchor my feelings and my emotions.
That's really big and really key right there.
Yeah, my mom always like used to scream at me like about journaling, because as men we need to understand our feelings, and I guess that's big for me just to hear you say that. It just just really just enhances that moment, because there's certain things that I feel like as men we like try to take on that real masculine vibe, like I can't feel this way because of this, or how I'm supposed to look. And understanding how to write your feelings down, it really just gives you that opportunity to understand why you even feel that way. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's important because, like, I mean, research shows that, like, the one reason why it's important to do that, right, is research shows that women have like 8,000 more words in their vocabulary than we do, right? And
Literally.
so
Dang,
simply because that's tied to journaling, right? The more you write, the more you're able to process your emotions, the more you're able to communicate effectively, which there's probably no man on earth that hasn't heard, I wish you would communicate more with me, right?
That's
Or,
a fact.
articulate, how you're feeling, right? So I could get an understanding of where you're at. Simultaneously, why we can't live in that masculine space and hold on to that or define ourselves in that way is that when you hit the valley, right? So maybe on the mountaintop, it's still not great on the mountaintop to just define yourself that way, but it's even worse when you hit the valley, right? And you're in despair and you're in depression and you're dealing with anxiety, right? And you're still defining yourself by that masculine energy. What happens is that then that turns your actions into detrimental things towards yourself, towards women, towards your family, because
Everybody.
you're holding on to, like, I gotta be this machismo, but you're in a place of despair where you can't be in that space. But
you need to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So by developing the vulnerability, or like you can't man up, you gotta open up, right? And so that's why that's important, because when you're in that valley, that's when we see the things that we see. When we see rape, when we see violence against women, like that's usually in a place because you're in a valley. For whatever reason, you're in a valley, but you're still trying to be machismo. And now your actions of rape, that masculine, which can be bold and brazen, turns into rage and anger. While you're in the valley, now you commit heinous acts, right? And so that's what we can't have, right? We can't allow that. And even as men, when we see other men in that, we got to call it out. We got to say something. When you see it, you got to say something, right? Like I just think about just the last 2 weeks, right? And this gets into a whole nother conversation where we could go, but like, what we saw, we get to watch, this Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion thing play out, right?
Go ahead, touch on it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few things that are troubling there, right? What we're talking about, we don't know the whole story, but something like that probably happened, right? Where some sort of verbal thing happened, and then that's what he felt he needed to do, which is wrong. We haven't seen any male rappers publicly come to the defense of Megan Thee Stallion, speak out, call it like, this is horrible. This is what we shouldn't do. We haven't seen men hold other men accountable. And so when we hear Black women talking about, we're not protected, people don't care about us.
That's what they're talking about.
That's why.
That's what we're talking about, right? And like, but our privilege and power allows for us to totally miss that, right? we have people making memes. We got black men out here making memes,
Yeah,
making
that's
fun of
fucking.
it, as opposed to saying like,
Yeah.
nah, we should have no violence against women. If a woman want to leave you and don't want to be with you, there's no reason for you to hold any sort of violence towards her, right? Like she don't want to be there, she don't want to be there, right? And then other men need to be holding men accountable for their actions. Like when I think about Me Too, right? Men get defensive and whatever, but like Me Too is created by men. It's because men didn't hold other men accountable. It's because you knew Russell Simmons was doing fuck shit. You knew Harvey Weinstein was doing fuck shit. People knew R. Kelly was doing fuck shit, and nobody said anything. People just like, oh, he a grown man. That's his business. Nah,
We gotta
can't do
step
that.
up.
You know, and so like that's part of the work that we have to do. And it's like the Black Man Can is about showcasing our excellence in everything and the contributions we're making, but it's also thinking about how do we make sure we hold brothers accountable and create safe spaces to have these conversations so that we can be better for ourselves and for our women and for society.
That's why your platform just fire.
Brandon, let me ask you this. You touched on a lot of good key points right there, and we're really about to push into the Black Man Can Institute. But in terms of holding one another accountable, I'm talking from a man's standpoint, how can you fully do that if you don't know all of the key components to the story? Like I get the premises of the understanding, but how can we speak? Do you speak publicly about that, or do you try to get in contact with Tory Lanez behind the scenes because you don't know? We're ignorant to the situation. We see what TMZ wrote. We see what a lot of people wrote. We weren't there, right? But how do we really just channel that energy in a positive way so that Tory Lanez understands and digests what we're saying in a positive way?
I think that is. So okay. So I try to anchor it this way. This conversation. So there's a book and it's called White Fragility, right? And so we always tell white people that's like one of the books people always say, like, you know, white people, you got to read White Fragility.
Black people need to read it too.
Black people need to read too, but white people, because it's around race and, you know, their power and privilege, right? And so, but White Fragility in some ways is like, it doesn't make you uncomfortable about the things that are happening in the world to Black people.
Yeah,
right?
The elephant in the room.
Right? It doesn't make you feel like this is a problem. You should acknowledge it, right? But like it doesn't make you get angry, right? Or like it doesn't make you feel a certain way. And so I think to your point, what you're saying too is like that's more like that process. Like it's like, nah, like we need to call it out. Like I don't need all the pieces of the story. Like I know that there was violence towards a woman, point blank period. Like you shot a woman in her foot. That's wrong. I don't there is no thing that you can say.
There's no gray area.
There's no gray area. You shot a woman in her foot. Like
Gotta be accountable too.
What? There is no. I don't need the rest of the story, right? And then even if we try to use that, sometimes that's us using our power and privilege to do that. Like because like that's what white people do, right? That's why we be like, well, I don't know all the facts of the story. Like that's what they say.
Meanwhile, they know everything.
Well, I don't know. You know, I think George Zimmerman was in his right. You know what I'm saying? Well, the officer, the George Floyd. I mean, you know, he was resisting arrest, so we need to use force, right? Like those are the same. It's the same thing, right?
Same thing.
It's the same thing, right? And so we can no longer be that way. But like that's part of us creating these spaces to have conversations about our power and privilege. Because that's the only way. One way to look at this. And it's really hard for us to do this. I've been doing this work and thinking about different things I want to do. I'm in talks to try to make a book around it, you know, but like what it comes down to is that as a Black man, as Black men, we are both a victim and agent of oppression, right? It's really hard to grasp that, right? Because it's like, because you know that you're a victim, but then you're like, who do I oppress? Oh, we oppress Black women. How do we do that? It's because we're male. Right? And there are privileges and power that come to being male that women don't get. Point blank period, right? And so sometimes you can't see it. Just like as a white man, they can't be oppressed. They just get to oppress everybody. That's just what they do, right? But you try to bring it to them, they don't get it, right? It's like how do I have, like, no, you have all the rights in the world. Everything is centered around you. This whole country, United States, the world is created around, white men, right? But the world also is created around patriarchy, which impacts all of us, right? It's anchored around men. Our whole world is centered around men. And then we have white privilege as well, which is it's centered around white men. So I think there is a lot of conversation to be had amongst us, because by acknowledging our power and privilege, that's how we can better be allies to Black women and hear their voices when they're talking about not being protected. When you think about, if you guys watched it yesterday, AOC, her speech in Congress, like that's Megan Thee Stallion. That's what we're talking about, right? Like we might not be those guys that stand on the street and like, yo, hey, yo, what up? That might not be us, but we know dudes who do it.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So, so I think there's the conversations around that we gotta have to bring men along so we can be better.
And take our ownership for it.
Yeah.
Gotta hold accountability.
And it's hard work. It ain't easy because it's uncomfortable to think about it. It's uncomfortable to come to the term with like I oppress Black women, and then you have to figure out like how do I specifically do that, right? Because like it might not be that you commit violence against women or whatnot, but there's a lot.
That's like, what are you doing not to help the situation? Okay.
And that can be, again, not holding your fellow brother accountable, right? Like I think about the stuff that came out not too long ago. I guess it was something that came out, and it was like this guy. I guess he's like a pretty popular guy, part of a pretty popular movement in New York City or whatnot, and like the behavior that he had towards women, and like when your friend, if your friends do stuff that's a little like you know what I mean?
Gotta holler at him about it.
Did you holler at him about it? So.
Okay. That's a lot to digest.
Said some key gems there.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. Sometimes you just gotta let it soak in your brain for a minute. So the Black Men Can Institute, is made up of 200 mentors and is impacted over, close to 4,000 young men and probably still counting. Why is it so important that you encourage young Black males to see themselves as more than entertainers, NFL players, and NBA players?
And it's perfect. And that's like, that's how we started this conversation, right? And asking me about sports. And so I think what it is, why it's important is that when I was that young boy, and even the boys that we talk to now, young boys that you've met, that you walk past on the street and stuff like that, I'm going to the league. I don't necessarily have an issue with them aspiring for that, because even inspiring for that, there's a level of work that you have to do. If you want to be a scholarship level athlete, you don't just wake up and I'm a scholarship level athlete. You have to work towards it, right? And so and I think there's transferable skills there to have a goal of something, to work for it, and then you can transfer that into other
anything that you do, right?
Exactly, right. So I think that's really important. We should highlight that. The reason why we have to showcase and highlight men in so many other ways is that, one, the young man, when he says he's going to the league, and then I meet a young man, say he has no athletic ability, right? He's like, I want to be a photographer. I want to be a podcast host. I want to, whatever it may be. The level of confidence is not the same. That boy's talking about going to the league. Yo, you can't tell him he's not going to the league.
You can't tell him he's not going. Nah, that's a fact. That's very true.
That boy that says, I want to be a broadcaster, the boy that's going to sports broadcaster, that wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, wants to be an engineer, wants to be an astronaut, whatever it may be, there is a lapse in terms of him saying, I want to be that, the confidence that like is going to happen, right? And the reason part of that why is because that is not necessarily what's celebrated. That's not what you see. So if you haven't seen people that have done it on a constant basis celebrate it, you question, like, is it possible, right? But you see athletes, you see Black men celebrated as athletes. They're on covers, they're on TV, but you don't necessarily see that in the case of all the other professions. And it's important for us to showcase that and highlight that, so that now boys have the same level of confidence that when they say like, oh, I'm gonna go do X, Y, Z, the confidence is there. They know it's gonna happen. I just gotta put the work in. Just like when they say, if I'm going to the league, all I gotta do is put the work in.
You spoke about showcasing, and your work has been featured all over. You're not only showing the world something, you're changing lives as well. So what's that like?
I kind of don't even, I think like it's just the rent that they say is the rent, the service is the rent you pay to occupy your space on earth. That's it. Ideas are
It's just
spiritual.
what comes with it.
Yeah, ideas are spiritual children seated by God inside of us. He places the people around us and the tools around us to manifest those things into reality. I'm just an example of him giving me an idea and then giving me all the people and the things and the tools around me to manifest it and make it a reality. And I'm just grateful to just kind of follow through on that. And if that impacts people's lives and whatnot, that's a great thing. And that's good. You know, like that's part of my contribution to society.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And we mentioned that the black man can, it's a lifestyle, right? A lifestyle that we do need to improve on and needs to get stronger. How do you think it could get stronger?
Um, I think sometimes as men, you know, we're bred around competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes competition can lead you to think of things in a scarcity mindset. So we need to not think about competition and think about how we can collaborate and partner, and work from a place of abundance. That like it's not that like if you have a pie and then because we collaborate or whatnot, like you get less of a pie. Like we can all win, and there's opportunity for everybody. So I think that that's one thing that we have to do. I think what we were just talking about in terms of knowledge and power and privilege, I think that's important for us to get better, and really just foster the brotherhood in terms of creating the spaces for us to come together. Like it's important for us to have this conversation here, and then like once the world opens back up, we got to do a little dinner. You invite 3 people, I invite 3 people, and now we got 10 people at dinner, and we're having this conversation. One, now people who don't know each other are connected, see how they can work together, but also that's just the brotherhood that we get to build. And you know, see what we can do and how we can create change. I think it's important to connect. What I like to say is connecting all the islands of success.
Mm-hmm.
And when we connect all the islands of success, that's what allows for us to create collective and sustainable change in our communities.
That's a fact. 'Cause there's no reason why we can't work together. And I just feel like as black people, we just be against each other for no reason sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of like it's part of capitalism is ingrained in everything that we do, right? So like
Gotta get that money.
that is capitalism. So like I think that that's definitely plays a role in that.
Mhm.
Yeah, money is always gonna play a strong part in a lot of things. But Brent, I need you really to tell me, when were you aware that young males really struggled with positive identity? You speak to that a lot.
Yeah, I think I mean it could start as early as depending on the environment that you're in. It can start as early as third, fourth, fifth grade, right? I mean, if you think about it from what schools do, or not schools, but like states or like prisons, right? They like the prisons across the country look at third grade reading scores and they predict how many jail beds they'll need by the time this cohort of kids reaches, high school, because if you can't read, that's a predictor of, that you'll probably commit crimes. So I think, the lack of positive self-identity starts really early on. Like right now, we're working on a few things, but this will give away what we're working on, but it's like we're looking at how can we create like an animated series, focusing on Black boys, right? Because if you think about it right now, there is
That'd be
nothing out
fine.
there that
It's nothing.
like if you have a son, what person or character do you go by that gets him a stuffed thing or underwear or a t-shirt that has somebody that looks like him on it, right? There's definitely cars and trucks and all that kind of stuff, but how do we create more stuff like that? So like it can start that early, let alone once you get to middle school and high school and dealing with microaggressions and everything like that. So
Touch back on positive identity for me one more time, and just really speak to why when you really recognize that our young males are struggling in that area.
yeah, I mean, for me, I thought about myself, but it really hit me like in kind of being a catalyst for the Black Man Can was when we were in college. I started a mentoring program in Atlanta, and we brought some of the young men to Morehouse. And during that journey, we had a great day. They got to see everything about Morehouse and meet different guys and all that stuff. And then we went to afterwards we did the debrief, and afterwards one young man said, the only other place that he could think of that looks like Morehouse is prison. And when I asked him to elaborate, he said he couldn't. The only other place that he could think of that had 3,000 black men at one place in one time was jail, right? And so I'm like, man, it's important. These stories, these narratives, everything needs to happen. We need to have a place. That's just a catalyst for it. Like that was in like 2000, maybe 2008, and then Black Men Can launched in like 2010 after I graduated.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. That would have shook me up, because just to hear the type of thoughts that our young males are having, like things like that, is like
at a young age
we know
too.
that, yeah, we know that, but to hear them say that, it is different, and that's why I'll tell you, like I told Rod, like you guys are very interactive, especially on social media, and that's something that I really pride you guys on. Like every time we'll like post something, like I believe his name is King Kyron, I believe is, and he has his son, and just the way that he's teaching his son, like that's what being a black man is about. And it was just so refreshing to see him with all the things that his son was teaching me. His son was teaching me shit, like straight off the top. He was teaching me a lot of things, and it was just good to see that, and that's why I really respect and love your platform, because we're both in journalism as well, and there's a huge push for women right now. But when I look at our young black men, there's no push for us. And just to see the Black Man Can, it was just real refreshing. And to me, it just made me want to be a part of something as well, just like that, because it's something that we need. Like building up black men is so important. Like not having a father, that breaks some people's cycle off rip. Not everyone knows how to be mature and want to rebuild that relationship, within their family to be better in life. So I feel like that's what the Black Man Can really has instilled and is really shedding a lot of light on it. I just got to take my hat off to you, bro, because you're doing something that's so important. And I can't wait for you guys to branch off in different aspects, because I don't know if you guys are thinking about it, but I've seen things for you guys as well too, just to add to your brand, if you was even to really speak about it, because that platform is crazy.
I would love for that to be the case. We are revamping our website. So like the Black Man Can started as a blog. So we're bringing that aspect back. We don't got no money, but I want to get people.
So good. You got to start somewhere, man.
You got an audience, bro.
Yeah, we got an audience though. So I want to have men writing. So like our new website will be like news stories and
consistently
from different men, about different men, and then also blog posts from different men talking about different things. So like our first few posts is one guy talking about his son and raising his son, how he loves his son. Another one is a guy talking about getting a vasectomy, stuff like that, right? So we'll have guys just writing about anything. My son has autism, here's how I handle that.
A lot of different topics.
And then like we also want to get into the digital space, creating more of our own content. So like I got a lot of ideas, and so just gonna try to get the money right so we can shoot some of that content and let it live on our site and whatnot. So. But yes, we launched the apparel at the beginning of the year, so now you can go cop a Black Man Can gear. So we got that, and we got.
I like that tee I seen the other day.
Yeah, it's fire.
Black one, yeah, only I copped that.
We got that. After Labor Day, all the stuff will be like revamped. We get new crew necks with the actual Black Man Can tag in it, as opposed to like say like the brand of the T-shirt. That hoodie's gonna come out, the beanies and the dad hats.
Everything.
So,
listen, man, I'm about to be back down there in the city soon, man. We gonna link up for sure. And let me tell you this too. I saw that you had came up to Syracuse back in like 2018. That drove me up the wall, because I'm like, damn, I wish I was there. We definitely could have part, because I just got my master's from there. Okay. So we went
up there 3 years in a row. So, 5 years in a row, from 2013 to 2018. We were doing summits up there. At Syracuse University.
Yeah, man, that was beautiful. When I saw it, I was like, damn, I wish I would have saw them this year. That would have been great, because in this environment, because I'm in Syracuse right now, it's needed 100%.
Yeah,
like 100%.
Ernest.
What's his last name?
Ernest Daly. He works for like the C-Step program up there and stuff. He's just he works there.
Okay.
Just a good brother maybe to connect with. I like Syracuse, man. I go to my little dinosaur barbecue when I'm up there.
Yeah.
So I rock with the Qs.
Yeah. Nah, it was real powerful to see that you guys had made your way up here. Yeah, that was super dope for me to see as well. Now, in terms of your IG account, like what type of feedback are you guys getting in terms of your digital platform and how you guys are reaching out to people?
Yeah, I mean, people like it. I think they like the consistency and the diversity of what we post. I mean, there's always people who think we could be more diverse with what we post. So
Like
that's
what?
a lot of things. We could go into like, should we do more LBGT posts? Should we do more trans posts? Just because of the time
Yeah.
Black men can, right? So it's like, in some ways people see it as all encompassing, right? So it's not just about maybe cisgender Black men. So that's something that we can think about doing. We want to do some more original content. We want to and then do even more memes. So I'm working on that to come up with like more memes to post that are like really
That'd be
positive.
fire.
Yeah, that would be
Like,
dope.
I saw on this one page, it's called Black Girl Tings. They have this thing called they call it Black Girlations. So like
Okay.
what they do is they take like, it'll be like a Beyonce quote, but it'll be like Black Girlations chapter 226, but then there's a
Okay.
Beyonce quote. So what I'm working on is like first and second Brorinthians, just using that same
Okay, we could do
That's
that.
right?
cool.
We
And so we
could
call
do
it
that.
That's
Brorinthians.
calm.
We'll have quotes from different rappers and different men in history. And then we'll call it like First Corinthians or Second Corinthians, like First Corinthians chapter 2,
Yeah.
or attack the marathon with the Mamba mentality, right? And then
Facts. That's fire.
so
Yeah, we gonna need that ASAP.
Nah,
The
nah,
one
nah.
thing
I definitely like that.
the one thing I liked about that page, the visuals, the videos. What's your thought process as posting wise? Like, how do you know like which picture, which video to upload and stuff like that?
it's I don't even know if there's a science. It's more of a feeling. Like I could look at like I got something after finish today. I'm gonna post this picture, and it's like it's a couple. They're like been married 53 years, and like it's three different, like they have three different images, like them dressed up, some in like some African attire, and I just know it's gonna hit. It's probably gonna do like at least 5,000 likes and probably like 150 comments. Like you just kind of know. And for me, it's just a feeling. Like I could look at stuff and just be like, "That's
You
it."
know it's going to hit.
And then I could look at stuff
Just
and
that
be like,
feeling.
"Not it." So I think it's just knowing what the people, just what will hit with people, and like really just be like, when I post this one that's coming up, 53 years married, like that's what people aspire to. Even men aspire to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, to find somebody, spend 53 years with them, and raise a family, and then become grandparents, like that's a part of our journey in life. Whether we as men don't always communicate that and talk about it maybe as much as women do, but it is something that men definitely think about.
Mhm.
Definitely feeling that. All right, before we let you get out of here, man, I have to ask you this last question. I want you to take us back to your very first conference with the Black Men Can and tell us a story or observation when you recognized how important your platform was about to be on our community.
So the first summit we ever did for the Black Men Can, we call it now, it's called the Building a Better Brother Summit. That's what we call it now. So it used to be called the Black Men Can Institute. We did it in 2013, March 2013. It was in Hartford, Connecticut. I used the school that I was working at. I had my man, who came up for that one? My man Terrace from Maryland, Elijah Oliver. I think Chike Uzoka was at that one.
Mm-hmm.
My mentor Terrell Hill, Leonard Epps. These are just some of the guys that came and did workshops, right? And we have boys from Springfield and Hartford. And we got to the point where we were, and my man JV came and he shared, like he had been locked up and now he's like, film producer and author and stuff.
That's fire.
Share his story to the young men. And I think afterwards, during we were doing the piece where, and Dean Jones, I gotta make sure, I'm just remembering people's names, right?
Yeah, no, I got you.
And then, and Dean is the reason why we do ties. So he was like, man, we should get the boys ties at the summit.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we do ties now. And it was during that process when you see all the, like more than half the boys had never tied a tie before. My man Brandon McGee was at it too. But we tied the ties, and and just seeing the look on the boys' faces when they tied the tie for the first time, and
It's
how
crazy.
it felt.
Happy.
Yeah.
I said, man, you know what? This is, we gotta do this. Like from there, I was like, we gotta go on tour, man. Like I was just doing it just to do. I had no intentions of it being growing to what it is. I just said, man, we're gonna do this little summit. And then I was like, I posted pictures about it. People like, you coming to my city? You coming to my city? And I said, man, like Jay-Z and J. Cole and all these different rappers, you go on tour. I'm going on tour, but we're gonna sell out, schools with brothers coming to do workshops and keynote speeches, inspiration and empowerment, and we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful thing. Touch on that. I read up on that the first time I think somebody taught you how to tie a tie, or I think it was at your job or something like that.
So like, this guy named Joseph Twelves. Maybe I need to go look him up one day, see what he's up to. But this guy Joseph Twelves. It was my first summer. I did an internship at Liberty Mutual Insurance Group, and I learned how to tie my tie from Joseph Twelves. That was a single knot, and then it was that following year when I got back to school. That's when I learned how to tie a double Windsor knot, and I've been tying a double Windsor knot ever since. Now we even got this, now. So my first tie, children's book.
That's nice.
It's a book.
Let me see that one more time.
So it's my children's book here. My first tie.
That's great, bro.
And so that's a book you can go get on the Black Man Can website. It's authored between myself and Tanae Deneen Eskridge, who's in LA. And it's a journey about a little boy learning how to tie his tie for the first time at the picture day. So like something that started from doing summits in 2013 is now even turned into a children's book. So
yeah, changing the world, man. For
that's
real.
a beautiful thing, man. Well, we're here to definitely give you your flowers while you're here. Salute to you, your respect, the love that you put. Got the red neff.
Things.
Bullet DJ Rewind.
That's a fact, man. We really do appreciate you, though, brother. More love.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And more success, man. For real.
Every time. It's the Rob and Rob for Life podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We out of here.
For life.
I learned I'm not telling the soul will make them speak for me. And every move I make deserves the highest scrutiny. Took all distractions off the schedule. We share the city, but it feels like I'm still out of reach.